All right, good evening, guys. Back here Monday evening, 5 o'clock for the evening session. So, good evening. Wait for a few people to come on in. If somebody's in here, so please say hello. If you have any questions, we got one person in here so far. So, if you have any questions, it's time to ask. A couple people in here. Just say hello. Good evening. We'll be talking about circulatory system, cardiovascular system today. And any questions you may have later on towards with our project, which we'll be due on Friday. So you'll have weekly projects in here. So I'll wait for a few more people to come on in and we'll get started. All right, only got two people in here. If anyone wants to say hello, any questions that you may have. Okay, I got a third person in here. If anyone wants to say hello, any questions you may have about the project, about what we're doing. Couple people, fourth person here. Anyone have any questions before we begin? And I'll wait another minute or two and then I'll get started. Okay, Diego, you're back. Any other questions that you may have? Hi, Diego. Okay, you're just passing in, just saying hello. Okay. If you sat through the earlier segment, which you did on my afternoon session, you don't have to stay in here. So it's totally up to you, unless you have any questions, because you were responding with me on the last session I had. Yes, the project is like the other one that we've had. Like the respiratory and digestive. Yep. Same thing. You'll have a research part to do and the brain pop to do. So you'll be diagramming the heart, okay, and then you'll be doing a research part of respiratory or cardiovascular circulatory illnesses. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and get started if there's no questions. So I'll start talking about the circulatory system. So go ahead and if you have any questions, you could stop at ask anytime during this. So as I begin here, I'm going to talk about what is the circulatory system. Well, the circulatory system is a system responsible for transporting materials throughout the entire body. Not just blood, but it transports nutrients, water, and oxygen to billions of body cells and carries away waste as carbon dioxide from those body cells that they produce. So it basically is a transportation of materials, of nutrients, water, oxygen, and blood. So it's an amazing highway that travels through your entire body, connecting all of your body cells. So that's the basic definition of what the circulatory system is. Now it's broken down into components. Obviously, the most important component is the heart, and that's your largest muscle in your body. So it is the main function because it controls, your heart rate, the blood getting pumped to other areas of your body for movement, okay, and other things that we do. Blood is another important component of the circulatory system, and blood is transported in vessels from arteries to veins and capillaries, and we'll learn differences between those three types of blood vessels. So the heart, blood, and blood vessels are the three most important or component parts of the circulatory system. Okay. All right. Let's see. Someone's in here. I'm not sure who this is. Can you state yourself? Aiden Gaming. I don't know who that is here. So please ask a question relating to science, please. Can you state your name there? Your screen name, please. And make sure you're keeping it on the topic here, of what you're doing here. So make sure you're keeping it classy in here. I can see what you type, and there'll be things that will be taken to action if there's things that are not so nicely said things on here. So be respectful for that as well. Okay. All right. So which gases are transported to and from the body cells from the blood flowing in the circulatory system? Well, we talked about from last week. We talked about the digestive system and the respiratory system. So we talked about the respiratory and system and its gases. So what are some gases that were being transported? Okay, can you state who you are then, please? Aiden, are you in Mr. Canaloo's class? Okay, so make sure even if yes, what we're learning about. I know you might have touched upon it last time, but you still have a project to do for Mr. Canaloo as well. So please ask questions pertaining to the project and or listen as I talk about the circulatory system. Okay, thank you. All right. So go ahead. If you want to add to that, Aiden, what is a gas that is transported to and from the body cells by the blood flowing in the circulatory system? You or anybody else want to give it a shot? Think about some of the gas exchange. We talked about the respiratory system um, last week. What was the main gas exchange within the body system there, within the lungs? Remember, there was a gas exchange. What were those gases? I think most of you guys probably know this question here. One that we need every day. We don't even think we're getting every day. I'll give you a clue. Something to do with breathing. Okay. Well, I was looking for oxygen as an answer for that one. I was looking for oxygen for an answer for that one. Okay. So oxygen is a gas needed for respiration. Okay. Okay. Now, there's a couple types of, for the circulatory system, the circulatory system carries two types of blood. So there's oxygen-rich blood and there's oxygen-poor blood. So these are the two main types I'm going to go over. Oxygen-rich blood is blood traveling to the body cells, which have high oxygen content and low carbon dioxide content. Oxygen-poor blood is blood traveling away from body cells. Okay, they have low oxygen content and high carbon dioxide content. So the arrangement of the circulatory system means that these two blood types of blood do not mix. So they usually are getting pushed out of one area or coming into another area from other body cells into the heart. So the heart is an organ at the center of the circulatory system, and it pumps blood all around the body. So that's their main organ in our system. Okay. All right. All right. So the next one here is the circulatory system. It is the inside of the heart. Like I was saying, the inside of the heart is divided into two sections so that two types of blood, oxygen-rich and oxygen-poor, are kept apart. So the right side of the heart, the side of your heart is the oxygen-poor blood. The left side of the heart is the oxygen-rich blood. Okay, so that's what's stated there. All right, so oxygen-rich blood is on the right side of the heart. Oxygen-poor blood is the right side of the heart, and where they're located. All right, so we have some parts of the heart for the coverings of the heart. So the first part of the covering is called the pericardium. It's a protective sac that is of connective tissue, all right, that surrounds the heart that is filled with fluid, okay? And some of the parts of the heart wall itself, the outermost layer, which has the fat which cushions to the heart, is called the epicardium, is the name of the outermost layer. The middle layer is called the myocardium, and that's where the primary cardiac muscle cells are in the middle. And then the endocardium is the innermost layer. Okay, it's thin and smooth, and it stretches as the heart pumps. Okay, it pumps blood. All right, so the myocardium, the middle, like I was saying, is probably the most important one to remember. It's the muscle of the heart. It's strong and thick, and it's composed of spontaneously contracting cardiac muscle fibers. So it can conduct electricity like nerves, and its blood supply comes from coronary arteries for the myocardium. Okay? All right. Okay. Any questions that you have over here for those that are in here? I think we got Diego back in here. Diego, I'm writing a message here. Okay. All right, so the heart has structures here. So the right and left side of the heart are separated by a septum or a wall. Okay, the septum is a wall. So the septum prevents mixing of oxygen-rich and oxygen-poor blood. So it's basically a separation or a wall, what the septum is. On each side of the septum are two chambers. So the upper chamber receives blood in the atrium, and the lower chamber pumps blood out of the heart is the ventricle. So that's what that means there. So the upper chamber receives the blood is the atrium, lower chamber pumps blood out of the heart is the ventricle there. Okay. So next is the atrium and ventricles. So I'm going to kind of go over some parts with that there too. Okay. So there are four chambers. There's two atria or atrium and two ventricles. So the upper chambers of the atrium, they have a right and left atria, and they're separated by what they call an interatrial septum. So it's like a wall between them, the atrium. And then there's two lower chambers, which are the two ventricles, and there's a right and left ventricle, and they're separated what they call an intraventricular septum as well, another wall between them. So they both have separation between them in these chambers. Okay, so the chambers of the heart function differently. So The atria collects blood that enters the heart, from blood to the body or blood from the lungs. And in ventricles, they actually pump blood out of the heart. So blood to the lungs or blood from the body. Okay? So that's what they do. That's their jobs or their responsibilities. Okay? All right. Any questions so far? All right, continuing on with the structure of the heart. Now, there's something called heart valves. You may have heard of a heart valve before. The valves are between the atria and the ventricles and are connected to the inner walls of the heart through by these tendons. They have tough tendons between there. So these valves open and close, and we'll talk about there what a valve looks like where it is open. Okay, so the valve is between the atria and ventricles, all right, and are connected into the inner walls of the heart by tough tendons. Now, these tendons allow the valves to close and hold the valve flaps in place. They prevent the valves from flipping up and turning inside out as well. Okay, so what it looks like when a valve's open is kind of straight up and down. When the valve's closed, it kind of looks like a tent or a letter V. Okay, all right, so that's closed for a valve, open for the valve. Okay. Now, a valve acts like a door that only opens in one direction as well. So, if the door is held by someone at a fixed point, the arm moves as the door opens and closes. All right, so that would be like the valve. The door would be like the valve. When the door is closed by the arm, it's closed, the arm is fully extended, so the door can only be opened in one direction. So the arm would be more like the valve tendon itself. Okay, on how it would be opening and closing. So the valve acts like a door that only opens in one direction. So in the heart, the tendons holding the valves are like an arm holding the door. Okay. One end of each tendon is fixed to the wall of the heart, and so the valve can only open in one direction. Okay. All right. Any questions so far as I continue on? Any other questions coming in my side chat there? Okay. Now, how does the heart pump blood? All right, so the heart can pump blood because it is made of a muscle. All right, it's actually your largest muscle in your body, or strongest muscle. So the muscle tissue works by contracting, squeezing, same thing as contracting, and relaxing. So squeeze, relax is basically how the heart pumps blood. Okay, so all the parts of the heart on either side work together in a repeated sequence. So the two atria contract and relax, and then the two ventricles contract and relax. So the upper chambers and the lower chambers, they both contract and relax. So this is how blood moves through the heart and is pumped to the lungs and the rest of the body. Okay? So one complete sequence of contraction and relaxation is called a heartbeat. So when it contracts and relaxes, that's one heartbeat. So you've probably heard of somebody having a high heartbeat, so especially someone involved in physical exercise. If you're running, playing sports, you get your heart rate up, your heartbeats up. So they go over 100 beats a minute, maybe even 200 beats a minute, depending on how fast or how into an exercise that you are or doing. Some people have a lower or slower heartbeat, okay? But a normal heartbeat's about 70 beats a minute. When that gets elevated, you're over 100, sometimes even up to 200, playing certain sports or doing different exercise activities. So, so that is one contraction. Contract, relax for the heartbeat there. All right. Any other questions, comments so far? Nope. Okay, continue on. Now, the next part I'm going to talk about are blood vessels itself. So as blood moves through the circulatory system, it moves through three types of blood vessels. They are arteries that carry blood away from the heart, capillaries, which link the arteries and the veins, and the veins, which carry blood towards the heart. It's an easy way to remember arteries is that arteries carry blood away from the heart. Okay, A for artery, also the word away has letter A in it. Easy way to remember that little reminder. So away for arteries. Veins carry blood towards the heart, and just think capillaries are the smallest vessels. Okay, they're tiny, and they link the arteries and veins throughout the body. Okay, so they connect. They're more like connecting veins. So those are the three types of vessels. You should know those, and those will be included in your project as well too. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about each one of them here. Okay, starting with arteries, since they are the largest ones. Okay. Um, they carry blood from the heart to tissues of the body. And they also carry oxygen-rich blood, with the exception of the pulmonary arteries. That's the arteries around your lungs, pulmonary meaning breathing. So thick walls are needed to withstand the pressure produced when the heart pushes blood into them. So they have thick walls as well for the arteries, so when the blood's from the pressure being pushed into. All right, and the capillaries, they are the smallest blood vessels, like I was saying. So their walls are only like one cell thick and very narrow. So they're much smaller, very narrow. And they're important for bringing nutrients and oxygen to tissues and absorbing carbon dioxide and other waste products. So that's what capillaries do. Okay. All right. And the last one is the veins. So the veins, once blood is passed through the capillary system, it must be returned to the heart. So it's done by the veins. So that's where it goes towards. Veins go towards the heart. Blood is pumped towards the heart. So the walls contain connective tissue and smooth muscle. So the largest veins contain one-way valves that help blood flow toward the heart. So many are actually found near skeletal muscles veins. These veins. So when muscles contract, blood is forced through the veins. Okay. All right. Any questions so far? Nope. Okay. Continuing on. All right. All right. Next thing I'm going to talk about is blood pressure. The heart produces pressure as well. So the force of blood on the wall of arteries is known as blood pressure. So blood pressure decreases as the heart relaxes, but the rest of the circulatory system is still under pressure of other areas. Even though the heart's relaxing, there's pressure build up in your other arteries and veins as your pressure is moved and circulated throughout the body. So how many of you guys in here have ever been to the doctor's office where you got your blood pressure read? They put that arm cuff around your arm, they squeeze it, they pump it up air, and it squeezes around your like bicep or upper part of your arm. And you guys have had that done? You respond back in here. I have a few people in here at this moment. Okay, so I'm just, if no one has been, and I'm sure most of you guys have been, had your blood pressure read at one point in time. So when blood pressure is taken, the cuff is wrapped around the upper portion of the arm and pumped with air until blood flows in the artery, is blocked. So as the pressure in the cuff is relaxed, two numbers are recorded. The first number is called the systolic pressure. Okay, that's the first number taken. All right, is the force felt on the arteries when the ventricles contract. The diastolic pressure is the second number taken, is the force of the blood pressure on the arteries when the ventricles relax. So somebody with a blood pressure, a pretty good blood pressure reading is about 120/80, the high number over the low number. When those numbers are really close to one another, that's usually saying that you have a high blood pressure. Okay, all right, and they're further apart, real far apart. That's someone with lower blood pressure. All right, so that's a little bit on the blood pressure side. Okay. All right. Any other questions, comments? Okay, moving on with blood. All right, talking about blood now. What is the percent of your body is blood? What do you think? What percent of your body is blood? Anyone want to take a wild guess? What percent of your body is considered blood? Like 50%, 25%, 75%? I'm just giving you guys an example there. We're gonna just to see if you can take a guess of what percent is of your body is blood. Okay, all right. That's okay. I've got Christian in here. Christian, you want to take a guess how much blood is in your body percent-wise? 20%, 50%? How much percent is the blood is in your body? What percent of your body is blood? Because we're talking about blood next. You could just type your answer in there. You could just put like, what's I put on the side? 25. Just write a number. Okay, you said 50. All right, it's actually lower than 50, and it's actually lower than 25. You want to take another guess? It's a pretty low number. I think that a lot of you'd think you would have more blood. I think a lot of us think we have more blood in our body than what actually there is. But you want to take another guess? Well, actually, you don't have okay, 15 to 20. That's a pretty good guess there. It's about what I put up here, 8%. 8% of your body is made of blood. So how much blood do we contain? Well, we have on average about 4 to 6 liters. So we contain about a pint of blood for every 15 pounds of body weight. So the composition of blood, what percent of your blood is cellular? It's about 45%. And the percent of your body that is made of plasma, which we'll learn a little bit about plasma, is about 55%. Okay? Now, blood is composed of plasma and blood cells. There are 3 types of blood cells that you need to know about, and I'm going to talk a little bit about plasma too, since these are the compositions of blood. So 3 types of blood cells are what they call red blood cells, RBCs. All right, you got white blood cells, WBCs, another just nickname for them, just abbreviated, and what we call platelets. Those are the 3 types of blood cells. And then you got plasma, which is a little bit different. It's not considered a blood cell, but it is a component which is in blood. So it's actually coloration of plasma. It looks like straw color. It's kind of like a beigeish brown color. It's about 90% water and about 10% dissolved gases, salts, nutrients, enzymes, hormones, wastes, and proteins kind of all mixed in together. So it's like its own component, what plasma is. It's not a blood cell at all. But that's what blood's composed of. So whether it's a red blood cell, white blood cell, platelet, or of plasma. Okay? All right, any questions so far? Good? All right. Now, plasma proteins. There are 3 types of plasma proteins. One's called albumins, the other ones are called globulins, and the other ones are called another one's called fibrinogens. All right, so the albumins and globulins they transport substances such as fatty acids, hormones, and vitamins. The fibrinogen is one of a protein that is responsible for the blood's ability to clot whenever you get cut or a wound or something like that is for clotting. All right. So next thing I'm going to talk about are the red blood cells itself. Now the red blood cells are the most numerous type of blood in the body. They transport oxygen. They get color from hemoglobin. They're usually circular shaped like a disc. Okay. They're made in the red bone marrow of our body, which is part of our bone structure, which we'll get into talking about the skeletal system, which will be next week most likely. And then they will circulate for about 3 or 4 months in your body as well, the red blood cells. Okay. Now there's white blood cells as well. White blood cells guard against infections. So they fight parasites and attack the bacteria as well. All right. So the number of white blood cells increase when your body's fighting. So when you're fighting an illness or infection or bacteria or parasite, your body starts to produce a lot of these white blood cells. They have something called lymphocytes that produce antibodies, which fight pathogens and remember them. So they kind of attach to them. Okay, so there's the white blood cells. So anytime you're sick or ill, that's kind of what is fighting against these infections. Now, platelets is another type of blood cell that I mentioned earlier, and they aid in the body in clotting. Like I was saying, if you have a cut or wound, blood clot, that's usually after time when that wound starts to heal, it starts to clot, eventually forms a scab. So our body has the ability to do for blood clots. Okay, and they usually in small fragments, and they stick to edges of broken blood cells, and they secrete clotting factor to help form a clot. Okay. All right. Any other questions, comments? I'm almost done with the presentation here. Then I'll answer any questions pertaining to the project, and I'll talk about the project too. Okay, the last segment here, our last part is on blood itself. Blood has three main functions, okay? And they are one, to transport nutrients, first thing. Doesn't matter the order that they're in, but it does. One of their main functions is transporting nutrients around the body, okay? All right. Another is for protection, it protects. And another one is for temperature regulation and regulation. So three main functions: transportation, protection, temperature regulation. Okay, would be some of the ones that it's used for. That's three main functions there. Okay. All right. Any other questions about the project? There's only a couple people in here right now. It's a time to ask any questions that you may have. I kind of went over the first 20, 30 minutes here on the circulatory system, introduced it, hopefully a chance to watch the video. Christian, did you watch the video with Mr. Canaloo and I? We were talking about the circulatory system. We were shooting some basketball and getting into the new section here, so hopefully a chance to watch that as well. Okay, good. You saw that. All right, so you know what to do for the project. So you are to draw a diagram of the heart. One part of the project, you're drawing a diagram of the heart. You're putting in the arrows of what's coming in red to the heart, where where it's going to move to, as blood circulates throughout your body, and blue for the way color it blue for the way it leaves the heart. So going into the heart, red. Going away from the heart, blue. Okay, for coloring your diagram. And labeling the parts. Right and left ventricle and atrium, arteries, veins, okay, and capillaries, and tell me what they do. All right, arteries, veins, capillaries. I'll put some vocabulary out there as well with this. And then the second part is you're researching a cardiovascular circulatory illness. Somebody that may have had a heart attack or a stroke or what they call hypertension, which is high blood pressure. So you're going to research a cardiovascular or a circulatory illness or disease. And don't forget, you also have a brain pop out there too. A brain pop on the circulatory system, 10 questions along with vocabulary, so that also help you learn some of the other key components that we've been talking about, stuff that the atrium and ventricles, capillaries, blood vessels, blood, platelets, that stuff's going to be on the brain pop there too. Okay? All right, any other questions? So just kind of giving a rundown of the project. It's also due Friday, anytime on Friday before the end of the day. So make sure you're keeping up with your assignments. A lot of you guys are doing a pretty good job getting things turned in on time. Any other questions? I will do a little question and answer with you here if you don't have any questions, to see if you were paying attention for today's lesson. So just kind of think through some of the things I talked about. I'll ask some basic questions. They're not too hard. A few of them might be with the vocabulary, but think about some of the things I've mentioned about, especially with often rich in oxygen poor blood. That was from the earlier segment. If you missed out on it, so you can go back and listen to that part too. Any questions pertaining to the project or about the circulatory system? You can type your answers into me on the live chat. There's only a couple people in here. Okay, well, Christian, I'm going to ask you a couple questions since you're still in here pertaining to the heart and the heart system here. So, in the circulatory system, this is an organ at the center of the circulatory system and it pumps blood around the body. What is that called? Pretty easy one to start off. It's an organ at the center of the circulatory system and it pumps blood around the body. What is that called? All right, good job, Christian. It is the heart. Nice job. All right, it is the heart. How about this one, Christian? All right. This is one of two types of blood. I just mentioned them. Um, the circulatory system carries two types of blood, but this type of blood travels to the body cells and it has high oxygen content and low carbon dioxide content. What kind of blood was that? This blood travels to the body cells, which has high oxygen content and low carbon dioxide content. Very good. High oxygen blood, or we call that oxygen-rich blood. Very good. Now, this type of blood travels away from the body cells and has low oxygen content, but high carbon dioxide content. Which kind is that, Christian? This type of blood travels away from the body cells, which has low oxygen content and high carbon dioxide content. So what is that one called? Okay, low oxygen blood, or we call that oxygen poor blood. Very good. Good job paying attention on that. Excellent job. All right. Now, this part of the heart, I don't know if you were in the early session here, is called the middle layer or the primary cardiac muscle area of the heart. What is that called? It's strong and thick, and it's the muscle of the heart. It's a part of the heart. It has a specific name. It's the middle layer of the heart. The middle layer of the heart, what is it called? It's strong and thick, and it's the muscle of the heart. That's a good try. It's not an artery. Okay. That is actually what they call the myocardium. The myocardium is the name for that. Okay, got to know that one there too. Okay, I mentioned this word as well. The right and left sides of the heart are separated by a septum. What does the word septum mean? I'll spell it out for you here so you can see it. Septum. What does that mean? The right and left side of the heart are separated by a septum. What does that mean? It's separated by something. What does that mean? Okay, it separates the rich and poor blood. Yeah, it kind of does that. Very good. All right, so the septum, it does prevent the mixing of the oxygen-rich and poor blood, but a septum is actually a wall, splits between them. Okay, so let me ask you this next question, Christian. Since you're doing a good job answering these here, you seem to be getting most of these all right, all correct. There are two chambers, all right, of the septum, the upper chamber and the lower chamber. The upper chamber receives blood. What is that called in that septum area where it's split off from the wall? The upper chamber receives blood to the heart. What is that chamber called? There's a specific name for it. We're going to try that one there, Christian. So the upper chamber receives blood. What is that upper area called of the septum? So remember, each side of the septum, the walls are two chambers. So the upper chamber, which the blood comes in, receives into that area. What is that called? Okay, very good. Nice job. It is the atrium. Good job, Christian. All right, now the lower chamber where blood gets pumped out of the heart is called what? The lower chamber where blood gets pumped out of the heart, what is that called, Christian? So the lower chamber where blood gets pumped out of the heart, what is that called? Hey, Christian, you still there? I was asking that question here. The lower chamber pumps blood out of the heart. What is that called? Or anybody else? There's only a couple people in here. If you don't have any other questions, I'll probably just doing a question and answer with you guys here. You know, any questions about the project? You can ask about that too. Oh, okay, good. Nice job, Christian. It is the ventricle. Good job. You got that right as well. You were on fire. All right, good job. All right, a couple more questions, Christian, since you're doing so good here. All right, I'm going to talk about the blood now, or the blood vessels. Okay, 1 second there. My computer's running a little slow here too. So let me ask you questions on the blood vessels. Okay, now this is the type of blood vessel that carries blood away from the heart. What is that called, Christian? Type of blood vessel that carries blood away from the heart. What is that called? Remember, letter A was a clue. Away starts with the letter A. So a blood vessel that carries blood away from the heart is called what? Yes, very good, Christian. It is the artery. Nice job, Christian. Artery is the answer for that. Good job. Okay. Now this is a type of blood vessel that carries blood towards the heart. What is that one called? This is a type of blood vessel that carries blood towards the heart. What is that called? This is a blood vessel that carries blood towards the heart. What is that called? This is a blood vessel that carries blood towards the heart. Try that one. Um, that's a good try. It's not the correct answer, though. That's not the aorta. We didn't really talk much on the aorta, but nope, it's not the aorta. It's it's a blood vessel that carries blood towards the heart. I'll give you a clue. It starts with the letter V. Might help you out there a little bit. Carries blood towards the heart. Are you still there, Christian? Okay, that's okay. At least I know you didn't. You might have missed that segment when I was talking about it, or that area while I was going over that. It is the veins. The veins carry blood towards the heart, and then the capillaries they link the arteries and the veins. They're the tiniest ones. They're the smallest ones, so they link them together. Very good. All right, a couple more questions, Christian, and we'll wrap up here. Unless you have any other questions about the project or anything like that. All right, I'm going to talk about blood next. Okay. Or blood cells. This is a type of blood cell. They are the most numerous. They transport oxygen. They're usually shaped like a circle, disc shape, and they get color from hemoglobin, another chemical. All right. What are they called? The most numerous type of blood cell. All right. They're disc shaped. They transport oxygen. They get color from hemoglobin. So, what kind of blood cell would that be? Remember, I told you there's a couple types of blood cells. Yes, very good, Christian. They are the red blood cells. Nice job. Red blood cells are the answer for that one. Very good. Red blood cells. Okay, good job. Okay, this next one here, this type of blood cells, they guard against infection. They help fight parasites and bacteria. All right, so they increase when your body's fighting against something. What are they called? So these guard against infection. They fight parasites and attack bacteria. and they increase when the body is fighting something. Very good. The white blood cells. Very good. Those are the white blood cells. Okay, and the last question I'll have, well, two more questions. These actually help aid the body in clotting. Remember, I told you if you had a cut or a wound or a blood clot, what type of blood cell helps aid the body in clotting, blood clotting? Do you remember that name? Starts with a P, but it was not plasma. I'm giving you a clue there. So this aids the body in clotting. It helps for blood clots. What is that called? So this helps the body in clotting. It's a type of blood cell for blood clots. What is that called? Platelets. Very good. Good job. Platelets is the answer for that. And your very last question, Christian. The blood has three main functions. Just tell me one function. You don't have to name all three of them, but what is one function that blood does? Blood has three functions. What is one? You can write that down. This will be your last question I have for you. What is one function of blood? Blood has three functions. What is one of them? What are one of them? Okay, supplying oxygen to cells. Very good. That's what we could be for transporting. So they help transport that oxygen. They also help protect, okay, the cells, like for fighting infections, like we talked about with the white blood cells. And they also help regulate temperature. All right, temperature like homeostasis stasis within the body. Okay, like where balance is equilibrium. All right. Excellent job. Christian, do you have any other questions before I sign off for today pertaining to the project? Due Friday, circulatory system, you are drawing the diagram of the heart and its parts, what they do, and showing the flow of blood coming in red, color red, and parts going out in the color blue. Sending me a picture of your diagram and along with your vocabulary with that, what they labeled, what they do, the parts, along with researching a cardiovascular disease, which I'll be on Wednesday. Okay. I'll be back on Wednesday talking about some ideas and examples of cardiovascular disease and circulatory diseases, along with reviewing some of these things on the circulatory system, some of the vocabulary and functions of what things do with this body system. All right. Other than that, it says, looks like you said, have a good day. Stay safe. You too. Go out and enjoy the rest of the afternoon, what's left of it. So have a good night. And I will be in touch with you guys every day on email or Microsoft Teams, but back on here live on Wednesday. All right, guys. I want to wish everyone a good night, and I'll talk to you guys soon. All right. Goodbye, guys.